Congratulations! You thought I didn't know about your affair. One day, I found out about my husband's affair. The cold look in his eyes when I had a miscarriage. I knew it was because of the affair he had had with that woman. While he was having fun with a woman with a big chest, I was struggling with the pain of losing my baby. I can't forgive him. I will never let it end like this. I want my love back. And this time, I'm not going to put my husband through hell. My name is Elisa. I am 25 years old. I thought I was an ordinary person with nothing to show for it. But then, unexpectedly, I met the love of my life in high school and got married with him. My husband, Oliver, is a powerful man in the town, and he's the only son. His father is also a councilman. His mother is the type of person who dotes on her son. I met my husband, Oliver, in high school. He was the ace of the soccer team and very popular. I wanted to be by his side as the manager of the team. That was our only relationship, but he had a bright, fresh smile. I was happy just by looking at him. My parents were not financially sound, so after I graduated from high school, I was able to get a job as a clerk at my husband's company. At that time, my husband had left home to attend college. He returned to his hometown upon graduation and joined the company as the company's heir. Although his bright smile was the same, he became an even cooler young man. "Good morning, Elisa." That alone was enough to make me happy. A few years later, the president of the company personally asked me and my husband to get married. "I would like to ask you to marry our son. What do you think?" "Huh? Or Elisa? She's not a good match." My father looked puzzled. "No, he needs a solid woman like Elisa." The president of the company visited my parents' house in a luxury car. How could my parents, who drive regular cars, object the president? My parents just looked at me with a blank stare. It was like a Cinderella story. The conversation proceeded smoothly, and my husband and I got married. It was almost like an arranged marriage. My husband, Oliver, was busy with work and came home late. But every night he says, "There's no one as kind as you," he would say gently, stroking my hair. I couldn't believe that such a wonderful man was my husband. Soon after, I became pregnant. I was married to the man of my dreams, and I was carrying his child. What could be better than that? I told my husband, "I'm having a baby." He looked at me with a confused look on his face, and I thought to myself, I guess men don't really feel it. I was gently touched by this little life within me. I was at the peak of my happiness. However, after I became pregnant, my husband started coming home later than ever before. Sometimes he doesn't even come home at all. "Take it easy. If you need anything, just go to your mother's house." I can see that smile on his face. My husband is always kind to me, so he's taking care of me. I sat alone on the brand new sofa. I told myself I'm going to be very happy. I had been living such a lonely life. I was living my life with a life in my belly as my source of strength. However, when I was in my 3rd month of pregnancy, as I was washing the dishes in the kitchen, I felt an intense pain in my lower abdomen. No, don't go out yet. Stay in Mommy's belly, don't leave. I passed out from the intense pain and mental damage. I found myself staring at the hospital ceiling. I could see my mother's face in tears. "Did you notice? It's all right now. It was so hard for you, wasn't it?" "Where's the baby? Where's Oliver?" I asked in a shaky voice. My mother just shook her head. My husband and father-in-law came to the hospital from time to time. I never saw my mother-in-law because she never liked me. I guess that's the way it is. She probably didn't like whoever came to be her daughter-in-law. My father-in-law was more worried and disappointed than my husband. My husband, though, would smile and say, "I'm so sorry, but nothing resonated in my heart anymore." There is a reason why my husband's words no longer resonate in my heart. The words of my obstetrician put up a wall in my heart. "This is hard to say, but you've been infected with a sexually transmitted disease. I think it might be the cause of the miscarriage," she said. What? An STD? Me? I was puzzled. Yes, unless you have any idea what it is, your husband should get tested too. I was so shocked that I felt ill mentally and my health deteriorated. My hospitalization was prolonged due to my deteriorating health. During that time, my husband visited me once in a while. I was too scared to ask him the truth. His smile, which I used to love so much, looks like a mask now. A month had passed since I had been discharged from the hospital and I was feeling lethargic. I found a message on my phone from my best friend Sophie. Sophie had been my best friend since high school. I haven't seen her since my wedding. How are you? If you can make it, I'd like to see you out there. I wanted to see Sophie too, but... Sure, how about tomorrow at a restaurant? Well, I'll be waiting for you at lunch tomorrow at that table. The next day, we went to a family-style restaurant where we used to talk over our dinner when we were in high school. Sophie was waiting for me at the table at the far end of the restaurant. It's hard to believe how much she changed. Sophie went to college, married a student, and had a baby girl, but they divorced soon. She got married over her parents' objections, so after the divorce, she's been raising her children on her own. She worked as a caregiver during the day and in the evening. She deals with customers at a nightclub. She was raising her children in a truly active way. I respected and thought of her as a superwoman. I haven't seen you since your wedding. We haven't hung out. I thought you were busy. Yeah, well, but more importantly, how's your health? I'm so sorry you had to go through so much. We ordered drinks and talked about memories. After we ordered our drinks and reminisced, Sophie gave me a piece of advice. You know that I work at a nightclub, right? Of course I do. You said day and night. It's great. I nodded. It's great, but your husband Oliver comes here a lot. What? My suspicions about my husband were confirmed. Well, I don't know if it's right that he comes in here so often when he has you, but that's not the point. What's the problem? My fingers began to tremble. I'm not allowed to socialize with customers outside of the nightclub, but that woman? The woman he's been dating? I had no choice but to find out the truth. I think he's having sex with her, but that woman's husband is in a gang. With that, Sophie took out her phone. Sophie scrolled through her photos she had taken with her friends at the club. Then she zoomed in and pointed at a woman with large breasts. This woman, huh? Her breasts were large and her hair was long and gently curled and dyed brown. She was laughing with unthinking ignorance. Sophie closed her phone uncomfortably. According to her story, the woman's husband was in a gang. He came into the store a while ago and made a fuss about the guy she was with. I took a sip of my iced tea and took a breath. Sophie warned me again. So if he finds out about Oliver, he's gonna be in trouble. I don't think she's told him about her husband. Sophie's face lit up with relief as if she had let something out of her system that she was holding back. I didn't think you and Oliver would get married, but I knew you loved him, though. How long have you known this person? My voice was trembling. I think it's about a year. When you got married, I thought you wouldn't come around anymore, but I was wrong. A year ago. That was around the time of my marriage. I hardly saw you, but you seemed so happy and I didn't want to ruin it. Sophie said. I had been through so much that I didn't want to make her suffer anymore. It's fine. I don't care if they find out. I don't care if everything's ruined. There were no tears. I was alone and in a state of great excitement. It was my father-in-law who proposed the marriage, not my husband. It must be true that he's a frivolous son. In order for me to suppress it, he made me marry him and put on the appearance of him being the heir of the family. His smile, which I loved so much, was fake. He was mocking me in his heart. If he didn't listen to my father-in-law, he would disown him. That's why he married me. My anger grew and became hatred. I told Sophie what had happened since I married him. She was furious and stood up, but insisted the woman's husband would be informed. I refused that. I should make them suffer, the same way as I did. She should happily go to hell. Sophie said she would help me if there was anything she could do, but She was so busy, so for now I asked her to just tell me what the woman was up to. How can I get revenge on my husband? I had to be physically fit first. I got up early and I started running. I cut through the cold early morning wind and ran. I thought about my strategy. How do I attract a husband who always comes home after midnight? First, I need to prepare a delicious dinner, create a peaceful space for him, and praise him a lot. The woman seems to be a sweetheart, but maybe she doesn't praise him. Great ideas that just keep coming. Before I knew it, I came to the park and took a rest. An old man who was taking his morning walk noticed me and staggered up to me. "You're the wife of that heir to the construction company, aren't you?" He smiled and spoke to me. "I've always been indebted to the president of that company. I'm impressed that you run so early in the morning even though you're young," he said. "Yes, my father-in-law is a member of the town council. If I can get the affection of the people in the town and solidify myself with my allies, I would be very reassured. I made it a point to get out and about and have been involved in volunteer activities in the town." I took the initiative in picking up trash. When I finished, I handed out tea to everyone in the town to thank them for their hard work. Soon after, I was told that the president and his young wife are very capable people, and the company's reputation grew. My father-in-law was overjoyed to see his stock rise. I also began attending cooking classes to satisfy my husband's appetite. When I had gained confidence, I bought some high-grade beef and minced it without sparing any effort. I used high-grade eggs. The spices are exquisitely blended and ground to a powder on the spot. I made a special and elaborate hamburger steak. I sent a picture and a message to my husband. My husband fell for the strategy. He came home for dinner, which was a rare occurrence. "What's up with this?" He happily took off his jacket. "You must be tired from all the work you've been doing." I tried my best to make it. I played the kind wife. I was delighted to see the juices coming out of the meat, and my husband ate the hamburger steak with a happy smile. "What do you want to eat tomorrow?" I asked with a smile. He looked a little indisposed for a moment, but the effect of the hamburger steak was greater than I had imagined. "Well, maybe an omelet with rice," my husband ordered. First of all, the cooking strategy worked. In addition to the cooking classes, I also started attending a music class in the neighborhood. My husband is a rich man, and he has a weakness for sweet, gentle voices. I could never have a sweet voice like that woman's, but I learned to sing. I thought I would learn to sing and capture my husband's heart with lullabies. I had to correct my slightly tone-deaf singing voice. I was embarrassed at first, but I enjoyed singing with the children more than I thought I would. The children loved me as their big sister, and it seemed to smooth my grief over the loss of my own child. One day, I served wine at dinner and sang a lullaby to my drunken husband. He nodded his head and looked happy. He was about to fall asleep. I led him to the sofa and put him on my lap. I gently tapped him on the shoulder and sang a quiet lullaby. He quietly fell asleep. Then he started saying that he could not sleep unless he heard my lullaby. We started eating dinner at home. At night, he would sleep in my lap while listening to my lullaby. The lullaby strategy worked. He did ask me to sleep with him that night, though. I didn't want to get infected again, so I sang to cover it up. After that, every time I saw my husband's face, I praised him like this. "Good work today. I'm glad I met you. You look great in that suit. I am impressed you beat the game. There's no one else out there as nice as you are." As a result, I won my husband's love. It seems the reason I got married was because his parents ordered him to do so, but that didn't matter. I became indispensable to my husband. Around that time, I received a text from my best friend Sophie. That woman doesn't see Oliver, so she's frustrated. I knew it was time. I was in bed as usual on my knees. I was humming a lullaby to my husband as I always did. As he drifted off to sleep, I said to him, "Go to hell, little Oliver." I whispered and patted his head. It was time to send the husband and the woman to hell. All I needed was proof of the affair and their activities. I was going to ask a detective agency for help, but there was a chance that this would leak out somewhere and my father-in-law would hear about it. The powerful man in a small town is almost like the king of a country. I was able to get the evidence of the affair from my husband's phone without any difficulty. He has absolute trust in me and does not lock his phone every time he is home. When I was taking a bath using my husband's favorite bath salts, I opened up the app on my phone. Sure enough, there was an image of him naked, in bed, with a woman. I wondered if it was just a souvenir photo. I was more disgusted than angry. Looks great, huh? Did you think I didn't know about the affair? I said without thinking. I transferred the images I had found to my phone. All that remained was to find out where the two of them were up to. I ventured to talk to my brother, who is 6 years younger than me. My younger brother is a smart guy, and he went to a science university. He hopes to become an engineer in the future. He also went to school on my income, so my brother would always follow what I'd say. He seemed to be shocked about Oliver. When I told him about my baby, he was furious. He said he would help me, and what did my brother come up with? A GPS system for cats. The GPS system used for lost cats is small enough to be attached to the collar of a small cat. It would be placed in the woman's and my husband's bags or briefcases. My brother would use a computer to analyze the information. I asked Sophie to help us find out what they were up to. Sophie then put the GPS in the woman's bag. The next step is to create a situation that will bring the two separated people together, and they can run into the woman gangster's husband. The woman is frustrated because she can't see my husband anymore. So I thought I'd make a scene. I sent a mystery letter to my husband's company, my parent-in-law's house, the chairman of my father-in-law's support group, and the woman's workplace, saying they were having an affair. One day my husband came home with a pale face. What's wrong? Did something happen? He just shook his head. After he came home, he had been answering and sneaking around on his cell phone. It seems that the suspicious letters are having an effect. My brother informed me that he now knows where the woman lives. He contacted me and said that the suspicious letter I sent, it seemed that Oliver had met up with her several times. It's about time to have her gangster husband make an appearance. In addition to where I had sent the suspicious letter earlier, I printed out the images of the scene of their affair. I sent it to the woman's house. That night, my father-in-law showed up to our house and yelled at my husband. My mother-in-law is crying behind my father-in-law. It's fine to cheat on your wife. Don't let her find out about it. My father-in-law ranted in front of me. Ah, there is this father-in-law, it's this child. My husband looked pale and shaky, and he seemed to have no excuse. Clean up your own mess, he said. My parent-in-laws went back to their house. No, Elisa, it's not like that. Someone set me up. My husband's phone rings and he tries to make an excuse. He tried to ignore it, but I asked him, aren't you going to answer it? In a cold tone. My husband had no choice but to answer the phone, but even from a distance, I could hear the woman's ranting voice. She said, help me! Come here right now! I've been found out! Why don't you go to her? I said in a low voice. My husband was surprised at the change of my gentle nature. He thought there was no place for him at home. I'll be waiting for you there, he replied in a low voice. I called my brother and told him that I was going to our parents' house. We met up and then drove to the place that they were going to meet. I knew exactly where they were going. There was a small pavilion in the biggest park in town. We parked behind a tree where we could see the spot. My husband drove his car up to the parking lot, anxiously waiting for the woman. My brother looked sad, saying that he was really cheating on me. I feel sorry for my brother, but I was sadder and felt more pain. Soon the woman showed up. Apparently, she couldn't beat her gangster husband. The woman's husband was fit, and just as I had imagined, he seemed to be living to his true instincts. Her husband grabbed Oliver, and the woman desperately tried to stop him. So, what will Oliver do? My husband cried. He shook off his hand and his chest the best he could. He was on his knees apologizing over and over. The fresh and cool Oliver from high school was nowhere to be found. The gangster husband seemed to have lost his temper. He yelled something to him and then went off, pulling the woman by the arm. My husband was sobbing, with his face on the ground. I muttered to myself, those tears are mine and my child's. My brother said, They're going to ask for alimony. Huh. I agreed. In the months since that day, I have not seen my ex-husband. After all, he never came home. The last time he heard was my low voice. I guess he was afraid of it. I was also uncomfortable in that house, so I'm staying at my parents' house. My ex-husband never showed up. I filed a divorce petition with my ex-father-in-law instead, and he agreed. For some reason, the head of the neighborhood association visited my parents' house. He apologized to me. The luxury car that he had drove up in looked a bit small. The neighborhood head said that he had come to witness my ex-father-in-law's apology. My son had done something really bad. I apologize on his behalf. I'm sorry. Oliver made his parents make the marriage proposal and finalize the divorce. I fell in love with a terrible man. What a terrible thing. It doesn't matter. Now that he'd already divorced me, my ex-husband disappeared. Unbeknownst to me and the town. But it turns out that my ex-father-in-law sent him to a small construction company on a remote island. My father was unusually furious. But I heard the anger of the town council president and the association that was supporting my father-in-law's was tremendous. They said, he had such a good wife. What kind of upbringing did you give him? We won't support you anymore. My ex-father-in-law was trying to get the divorce finalized. But he was pushed by the neighborhood association president and the supporters of the association, and he offered to pay alimony. A thick envelope was presented in front of me. The president of the neighborhood association said, "It's not something you have to worry about. You should take it. We're always on your side, Elisa," he said. He smiled broadly. A short time later, with the cooperation of the townspeople, I decided to open a children's cafeteria. The children eat the food I cook with great relish. With the smiles on their faces of the happy children, I felt as if I was looking at the child I could never hold in my arms. Thank you for watching.